Hello, Idaho Falls. I'm Tim Hagerty. I broadcasted Chukars games in 2004, and the most well-known player on that team, no doubt, easy choice, number one known player from that team, Billy Butler is with us. Billy, how are you doing?
Doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me. It's been a while, buddy.
Yeah, sure has. The Chukars asked me to do this, and it was a pleasant surprise. Never thought I'd be interviewing Billy Butler again after I last saw you in 2004. We were both a lot younger then. And
You sure were.
what do you remember about that season?
Well, I have a lot of good friends off that team is what I have. My first roommate, Brian McFall, my best man at my wedding, all the above. Yeah, I mean, so him, Ed Lucas, are really good friends of mine. Mario Lasson, yeah. Billy Buckner. There's a lot of good players on that team. J.P. Howell.
Yeah, that's
it's kind of
nice
going back through it. I don't think about it every day when you do it. You just go back through the names. And there were some pretty good players on that team. We had some good players.
So as I think back
it's a good time. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry, Bill. I was just going to say, when I think back to you in that season, picked out of high school, you had just finished up high school a couple of weeks earlier, first round pick. And I remember you were always the player that people wanted to interview when we were on the road. You were the big prospect on that team. And I just would think that here's this kid that was in high school in Florida a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden he's moving to Idaho. Everybody wants to talk to him. At that young age, were you nervous at times? Were you uncomfortable at times?
Yeah, being the youngest on the team, I was used to being the youngest because I always played up. I always played up. I mean, by up is played with guys 2 years older than me. But so I was used to being picked on. I was picked on my whole career. I was always the young guy for a while there. So I was used to the the older kids picking on you and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't worried about that. I kind of brought that on myself some too. But yeah, I mean, just I was actually used to playing up, so I wasn't really like I was nervous. I was always taught to be the one, like whenever anybody asked for an autograph, anybody asks for an interview, you always say yes because you never know what's done. Like now, I mean, like yeah. I mean, you just never know when it's going to end. So you always take care of guys. You always take care of the guys in your profession want to interview, all that kind of stuff. I was always thought to be the guy that was approachable. I hope I was. That's what I always strive to be.
I remember opening night, your first ever professional game. You hit that high home run to right field. I remember it cold night against Ogden. It's funny how the time flies. That was 16 years ago. I remember it so clearly, but that must have been, I don't want to say confidence because I know you had confidence in your skills as a hitter, but to get that first home run out of the way in your first professional game, do you remember that game?
Absolutely, I still remember that one. Obviously, you remember your first things. You remember your firsts of everything, and I remember that one. I do remember being cold for sure, and not used to that because I grew up in the humidity in Florida. It was just, it was completely polar opposite. I live there now. I know probably Kevin's told you that. So I'm kind of used to it now, and I was like, you always remember your first. So that I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it was what was it, 16 years ago now. I mean. So you don't forget those.
Sort of the blooper regarding that team that I remember is one night in Casper, Wyoming. I believe you were playing third base, and the game gets paused because there was a snake on the field. The general manager of the team came out. He had this pillowcase, and I'm up there in the radio booth wondering, why is this game being delayed? And he scoops up a snake. And I remember thinking, what a random thing to happen in a baseball game. This is minor league baseball, a snake delay. Do you remember if you were playing third base for that? I know I'm testing your memory on that one.
I was playing third that night, and now I'm looking. It was definitely weird, and that it was delayed for that. Just realized, and now I realize where I'm at. There's already in Casper, Wyoming. You don't think you're going to be there, so really that weird. I'm like, but yeah, that'll never happen again for me. I mean, when I was playing, I got to get delayed because of a snake delay. I mean, that's a story I tell still. So I'm glad you told that because I still remember that.
Yeah. So looking at your major league career, 2012 Major League All-Star, and it just so happens that that year the game is in Kansas City. Was that a thrill for you getting to play not only in a Major League All-Star game, but right there in your home park?
Yeah, thrill doesn't even describe what that was. A lot of times, most guys have good careers, and they don't even get to, experience the All-Star game. I felt like I was told, like, I had 3 or 4 years there in a row where I had to, just because we were in Kansas City, where we didn't have a team that was, contending at the time. We were like, we were struggling as a team to get wins, and we were like that to compete. So we got one guy per year, just that because you had to have a guy. So to get it that year, because I had been really been consistent for the last 3 or 4 years before that, and to get it at home, I'm glad there was the wait. I wish it, obviously, you never say you wish. I'm glad I only had one, but I wish I'd had more. But that one being the one I got selected for was irreplaceable. I still have people talk about it the way they, the home run derby went that year, and the rule they put a rule in because of them not putting me on the team. They had always put a home guy on there now because of the way that the crowd was on Robinson Cano. I mean, it would have been great to be in that one, but it was so many things in that I'll never forget. So it was really like one of the top highlight moments, aside from World Series type stuff and AL wild card in 2012. I mean, that's right up there. Those are the 3 major things in my career.
Another great thing that came out of 2012 for you, you win the Silver Slugger Award. Not many players in baseball history can say they have one of those. Where do you keep that award? Is it on display somewhere?
It's the first thing people see when they go in my basement. My wife designs it, but that's the centerpiece of our man cave, which is where I hang out a lot. I don't look at it. It's there for everybody to see when they come over, along with my, American League Championship ring, which it was a World Series, lost in Game 7. But, those things are right there. You see people come down to watch football, and they tend to gravitate towards that for a little bit. So, you just realize when people start talking about how rare those things are. And, I think David Ortiz that year, he got hurt, but he was on his way to winning another one in 2012. That's so never thankful for somebody to get hurt, but I got a trophy downstairs because he got hurt. Because he was having if you look at David Ortiz's numbers per game, he was having another one of his Silver Slugger type years. I mean, it's tough to compete with, those types of guys, him and, Edgar Martinez, for all those years. Like, basically, those guys transitioned to each other. If you look at all the awards they won, hell, the award is named after Edgar. I have that downstairs, the Edgar Martinez Award. And I mean, I look at that one because I cherished a guy like him. I watched him nonstop. So those things mean a lot. That I put it all together and was on their type of level for at least a season there.
So you talk about your awards, you talk about playing in the All-Star game. I thought it was interesting, something you said before we began recording, that maybe as you look back, you wished as a player you took it in more and maybe enjoyed it more while it was happening.
Yeah, you wish you would stop to, just realize where you're at. You realize what you've done or how rare it is to get to where you were at. Unfortunately for me, I was always trained from a young age to, my dad was military. I was raised military style. I was raised, like if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. So, I mean, timing type things. I'm like, so much structure with the way I was raised. So I was raised from a young age when I was 13, 14 years old. This is what my expectations were, what I was set to do. But now that I'm looking at it, how many people had those expectations and never make it? The odds are so far against all that. And some of the best players I ever played with never made it because of either an injury, mental problems, just roadblocks that got in the way, and everything seemed to fall in line for me to get to where I was at. And you just don't realize what you have until, you're sitting at home one day with your wife and your kids that I love, doing every day now, but you don't realize what dedication and how everything have to line up to get to where you're at. And I realize that now.
So you have 3 young daughters, I read. How's fatherhood
Yes,
going?
absolutely. It's a challenge every day. Yeah, it's 11, 7, and 4. So at some point throughout the day, you're doing your coaching. You're going through. I mean, you use my baseball tactics. You use your coaching and everything like that to keep them all in line. Try to keep the the house from burning down. With all the 3 daughters fighting back at each other. I mean, it's constant. Micromanaging everything. So you kind of, they're great, right? Especially with what's going on right now. Home every day doing homeschooling. I mean, I feel like my wife deserves a lot of, brownie points, and that doesn't even go as far as she's doing with all the teaching she's doing with the, things we're relearning how to do things that we learned in school so long ago. I mean, it's been a challenge. And so I think that's the way to put it every day. It's a challenge with parenthood every day that I wouldn't take back, though.
Well, the final thing I wanted to ask you about, you already mentioned this. You live in Idaho Falls.
Yeah.
For me, I've been lucky enough to go to 49 states, a lot of different cities, and it is right near the top. I just loved it there. It remains one of the most fun, memorable years I've ever had, in baseball and in life. And you and your family love Idaho Falls enough that you make that your home. So what is it you love about living there?
You look about it. Hey, you went to some of those states you never went to if you weren't broadcasting there. Broadcasting there for that team. You go to Montana and you go, Wyoming. I mean, what other chance would you get to go to Wyoming to broadcast a game?
Wouldn't
not one.
No.
You wouldn't have. No, we love it. I mean, summers there. I mean, they're absolutely phenomenal, as you know when we were there. But it's we have a cabin in Yellowstone up in Island Park. So I mean, there's so many things that people there like that think that everybody thinks Idaho, they think potatoes, but that's big. But there's so many beautiful things up there. We love just being in the woods. I love going to Yellowstone, just going to so many things you can that you can do. I know it's a small town, but it's just the west and the mountains. They got it's just so nice up there, and her family's up there. So we have, we kind of have the best of both worlds. We're down in Phoenix right now. That's where we come down here every year. So we got stuck down here a little longer than expected, but we kind of enjoy the pace of down here and up there. And man, we just enjoy the mountains and the woods.
Well, Billy, great to see you again. I know the people in Idaho Falls appreciate you doing this interview, and thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tim.